good evening, and welcome back to the Millionaire Ladies Mob. We are with you. It is March 31st, the last day of Women's History Month. I am Saran Baker, and I am your debt elimination queen. You can find me at Covered by Saran on Instagram, Facebook, and on my website. And when I have the ladies that are with us today, our ladies mob, introduce themselves briefly. And we're going to get right into our topic. So today we're going to start with Aaliyah. Aaliyah, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to tonight's broadcast. My name is Aaliyah Sherrod with the Millionaire Ladies Mob. I am the healthcare queen. I do all things healthcare. I love to make sure that you and your family are covered and have what you need. So we are going to dig deep tonight on a couple of different topics, and I welcome each and every one of you, and thank you for joining us.
All right, we're going to move over to Shalonda. Come on through, Shalonda. Introduce yourself. You got to unmute.
I did unmute.
Go ahead.
I don't know what it's doing. I have a bit of a lag tonight. I apologize. But I am Shalonda Kaiser Mitchell, the money queen. Can you hear me? Am I unmuted now?
Yes, you're good.
Okay, thank you. I am the money queen with the Millionaire Ladies Mob, where I help you with everything money. I help you grow your money, save your money, and make money. Sorry, I have a bad lag. I apologize. I can be reached on all of my social media platforms as Shalonda Kaiser Mitchell. Go ahead, Carmen.
All right, come through, Carmen.
welcome. Oh my goodness, my energy's a little bit off today. I'm suffering from some vertigo problems, but we will get through this. Nevertheless, I am Carmen K. Bernard, the cash value queen. You can find me on carmenk.com. I help you to protect your income, to eliminate debt, and to create generational wealth for your family. Not to mention creating a stream of income that you are never going to be able to outlive. And tonight, I want to welcome you. I'm so excited about this topic, even though it doesn't seem like I'm excited. I'm really excited about this topic tonight first. So thanks again for joining us.
All right, well, let's get into it. You know, we ladies, we get together often and we talk about different things, but I felt like this week, you know, this is our third intro to bringing the world into the conversations that we normally have with one another as we help clients throughout the United States. But today I felt like it was apropos to really just talk about, you know, women's first, celebrating the legacy of women doing things first. But today I'm going to start with something we don't normally talk about. We're going to talk about women leading in finance first, right? Names you may or may not have heard before, like Maggie Lena Walker, who was the owner of one of the first Black-owned banks. Maybe you don't know a little known fact, like between the 1880s and 1930s, there were almost 100 banks founded and run by Black people, African Americans, but only one of them was led by a woman, and that was the St. Luke Bank in Richmond, Virginia. And Maggie Lena Walker started that bank and ran that bank with her right-hand woman, right, Lillian Harris Payne. And so these are women that we can look to in finance who not only, I'm sure they created a financial leadership in their households and in their families, but they did it for the community as well. And that's something that we hold dear to our hearts, where we, you know, the four of us together, when you put us together, we are really making a difference in the community as far as finance and helping people to get in control of it and get in front of it and create generational plans for themselves. But these women took it a step further and started whole banks. Could you imagine actually running a bank?
Imagine that, right? I really couldn't imagine that. What was even more surprising is that this bank, although it was sold, continues in Virginia up until today.
Really?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes.
it's under the Consolidated Bank and Trust Company. And I hope that someone who visits that bank today knows and understands the history of where that came from. And I am happy to even learn about this woman because what we are trying to do right here, we're standing on their shoulders. They've done it and we can do it. And so that one really surprised me, and I am just happy to know that and to know, you know, this is nothing new. This is
Right.
nothing new, right? This is
Mhm.
nothing new. We just have to continue to educate our community. Um, so that everyone can be in control of their finances to be able to do the things that we have been talking about, you know.
Oh,
Great.
absolutely, absolutely. So as we go into the conversation, I don't want to be remiss. There's a book about women leading in finance. It's
Really?
called Banking on Freedom: Black Women in U.S. Finance Before the
Wow.
New Deal. And so it's a historical context, right? And y'all know I'm kind of a fake history buff, if you will. I really like to know like the background on things and where things came from, and to know that we have women leading in the banking industry as far back as the 1880s is an amazing thing, because here we are today in 2022. And I know in my experience in dealing with clients, people don't think that they can even lead their own households in finance. And we're out here educating people and bringing the conversation up so that they know that they can do it. And we also know we have so many other firsts, right, that are going on. We have one right now. We have our first African American woman in the process of becoming a Supreme Court judge. We're going to speak it positively going through the process. And we have our first African American woman serving as the Vice President of the United States, or as they say, these United States. And these are the things that really, really resonate with us as women. And when we look at our young girls and our granddaughters and our nieces, and we want them to see these powerful women doing these things in the community. Well, my question to you is, and I'm gonna throw this out to my panel, is what are some financial things that you feel like are important in your specialty area for women to take control of, or to have some good knowledge about in their household finances, as well as in the broader sense of their family finances, right? Because we have our individual households, but we know that if something happens at our mother's house or our grandparents' house or our children's house, if we have grown children, they impact us financially. What are some of the things that you feel like we should be taking a leadership role in financially? I'm gonna shoot it over to you, Shalonda. We're gonna see if your lag has stopped.
No, the lag is still there, but there are several things that I feel women should take. Um, Let me see how to say this um, without saying get up and get to work, right? Um,
Get up and get to work.
don't say that.
Get up and get to work, girl.
Get off your butt and go to work. No, I feel like there are, being a counselor, I see a lot of times where the table has turned
Mhm.
depending on the community that you're in, depending on the community or the people that you are working with at the time, because my clients span all over the map. I have clients that I help get through crisis situations that may not necessarily have even a middle class income. And then I have your middle class, and then I have the elite. So, my book of business, it varies. But I will tell you that the money cycle has changed. You see now where, hey, as women, we're holding our own. We're holding our own. And sometimes, we're holding up the whole household, even if there is a man in the house.
Mhm.
So I can't say, that I think that women should, focus on
providing and helping at the table, because from what I see, we're doing that. Some of us, we make the table. I think that
Right.
I agree
I
with
think
you.
I think that it's important, honestly, for us to understand that as a woman, not only are we sitting at the table, a lot of the times we're making the table,
Mhm.
and not be embarrassed by having somebody, that can match what we're putting on the table.
Mhm.
So, not being afraid to be independent, but also, not being scared to let somebody in to help take off some of those responsibilities, because I don't think it's a matter of us getting the finances or maintaining the finances. I think it's a matter of us being able to equally share the financial responsibility, if
Oh
that
yeah.
makes sense.
Oh, I love that. I love that because one of the things too, when we start thinking about women in a household, I mean, because some women are married, some women are single, some are single parents, some are, divorcee, some are widows, some are retired, some are not. And the thing is that every stage in your womanhood, there should be some type of financial plan or some
Mhm.
idea of what to do. I know one of the things that I find is that one of the statistics that I read recently was that about 18% of women don't even know that much about retirement planning, and they don't know what they're going to do when they're retired. And the age ranges of those who answered that question varied. It wasn't just someone looking at retirement; it was younger people, maybe in their 30s, who don't know, what to do when it comes to that type of thing. And so when we're talking about women and finances, and really becoming the leader in finances, that's the big, big, big thing, right? So, Aaliyah, talk to me about, my healthcare queen. Talk to me about ways that people can be leaders in their finances. I
Um,
mean, not just people, our women, because we specialize in dealing with the woman, right? Because we've
mhm.
all told our story, and you can go back and watch our playback from one of our couple of first videos. We've had these different challenges in our lives, and we've overcome them, and we've learned
Mhm.
and mastered it. And so that's why we're here. Like, let's share because we know there are other women going through it if we went through it.
I have to agree. When we first started and we started talking about the ladies in finance, just think about the courage
Mm-hmm.
that it took in those days for them to even think that they could open up a bank. Just think about it. Just think about it. So
Right.
we have been courageous for many years,
Mm-hmm.
and for for us as women to make sure that our families are taken care of because we bear that responsibility. A lot of times when we grow up, health insurance and finance and retirement planning, when I was 20 and in my 30s, I'm like, oh, finances and retirement, that's 40 years away. You
Right.
don't think about it, but it goes by so fast because now I have grandchildren and I don't know where the time went. So we have to think about those things. And when we think about the finances for our family, we shouldn't just think about tomorrow. We should think about years from now because short-sightedness is what got a lot of people into the problems that they have today. They only think about today and then maybe tomorrow. But you have to think about years from now because what's going to happen to the family? My main thing is if something happens to me, if I was the main breadwinner or if I was the helper with my husband, if something happened to me, what happens to the family? Who takes care of the kids?
Mm-hmm.
It's like if, let's say, a husband and wife and they have 4 children, something happens to that spouse, who's going to take care of the children?
Right.
So we have to really think clearly and about the future for our families and our kids and our grandkids because what we do affects their future, and that's what we really teach. And I worry. I think about the time when I didn't have health insurance. It was a very short period of time. I think it was just like a month, and that was
Mm-hmm.
like almost 15 years ago. maybe 20. And in that short period of time, my husband had a major incident. And that's why I will, every penny, I will say it, I will never be without health insurance. We made it through,
Right.
but I didn't think about it. He was like, oh, nothing's going to happen. We got a month before our new insurance kicks in. But you have to think about the future and what will happen if something major happens. You don't know when you walk out your door what's going to happen. But those ladies back in the 1800s, I think about them and the way they dressed and all the clothes they had to wear and how they had to be. And, but then to do a bank, oh, the courage it really took.
Well, and I'm going to leverage that a little bit, Leah, for a second. So think about, right now, if I wanted to start something, anything, a company or whatever, I go to my living room and I pull up my laptop and I type in start a company, right? It's just gonna scroll. All the hits are gonna come, right? Even simpler. I'm not even gonna go to the living room. I'm gonna roll over. I'm gonna take my cell phone off the nightstand.
Right.
I want to start a business, right? And it's gonna all lay out right there, right? But you gotta think, and this is like, if you didn't live in a time before cell phones, I know I did. I age myself, right? If you didn't live in a time before cell phones and the internet, everything you needed to do, you needed to go to the library, you needed to go to City Hall, you needed to go to all these places to get things done. And so in the 1800s to the 1930s, to be not just African American or Black,
right,
to be a woman walking in saying, I need the incorporation papers to write down to write out the information, or you had to get a typewriter. Right. I'm not gonna age myself and say I typewriter.
No. It was carbon paper sheets. It was carbon paper sheets.
Carbon paper sheets, right? And you had to walk this through. And the amount of difficulty they would have had to go through to get these things started. Think about, this was Richmond, Virginia, right? Obviously, there were things happening in the South that just happened in the South during those times, right? And they had to come up against those things to push through, to do it, to create a legacy, to create a bank that's still standing and operating today. While I may not necessarily be operating under the name, it's still operating, right?
Yeah.
And these are the challenges that we don't know anything about. Now, do we have challenges today? Absolutely, but they're not the same ones, right? And I've always said, and Carmen and I talk about this, is that this is the generation. It's our time. This generation, it's our time to create those avenues for generational wealth, right? And so, Carmen, talk to me a little bit about some of the avenues that that we can start to tap into as women, leading our finances or co-leading our finances with our spouse to create the generational wealth for 2 or 3 generations.
And one of the things that really struck me a few minutes ago when you were introducing this segment was the fact that women like us, Shalonda's a little bit younger than we are, but the ones with grown families, that they have their own families, when something happens in their household, it affects our household. And so from that, we have the responsibility to continue to share, to educate our children. Let's take the topic a little bit of what Aaliyah was talking about health insurance. So we might have some young, nothing invincible, nothing can happen to me right now. I can go without insurance, children, right? But if something were to happen, who's going to have to come to the rescue? Right now, I'm not like some of the parents I hear. We put them out at 18. I raised them from 1 to 18. 18, they gotta go. That's it. I'm not that parent, and I know a lot of us aren't. Even though we might say some things like that, but when something happens, if that person, that 25, 29, 30-year-old, oh gosh, my baby is a 30-year-old this year. The last one is going to be 30 this year. right? If something were to happen to him and he chose to go without insurance and now he's the breadwinner for his family, what happens, right? And that's just even health insurance I'm talking about, not anything else, right? Like like Aaliyah was saying, something happened in just that short amount of time. Something can happen. And I think that we have to like close those gaps. We have to be there to fill in, to guide, to educate, to redirect these people into doing certain things. Because if they don't understand anything like that, that interrupts whatever you're doing, impacts your generational wealth. Because if we're using money or we're not able to gain or money is the thing that makes the wheel turn, for lack of better words. But if that person is unable to earn, then the money from someplace else is going to replace that, and that money could have been working for something else. So it all impacts. So one of the big areas I would say we have as a responsibility is to continue to educate these millennials and younger people. What was the other one? Exennials?
Oh yeah. Is it
Zennials? What are they?
Microwave kids? I don't know. I'm totally joking. I'm not gonna. I mean, it's awesome. Us Gen Xers don't know how to behave. Just
I don't know. My grandbabies today, she was coming home. She said, "Can I please have some Donalds?"
Oh, that's the new name.
What's that? McDonald's?
Yeah, but she calls it Donalds. So, the microwave kids would have been like my kids. I don't know what they are. These younger people.
Yeah. So I want to turn the conversation a little bit to this. So when we start talking about creating money, becoming the financial leader, right? There's some concepts, right? I read this in a book written by a gentleman, and in the book he says, Eugene Mitchell wrote it. In the book he says, he says Black people plan for Saturday night. Other ethnicities plan for the next 5 generations. Yes. Right. And that's one of the things that we want to kind of get out of. Right. And I know that's a blanket statement and it's not true for everyone at all. Right. But it's just something to kind of catch your thought to say, wait, am I that person? Am I doing it? And the thing is to really start thinking about it. I mean, I was talking to a gentleman the other day and he said, oh yeah, we got $200 or $300 tickets to see some Elmo or something live. And I'm thinking, well, do you have a college plan for this young person that you're taking to see Elmo? And not saying don't do those things, but putting it in perspective, right? One of the statistics say that, and I talk about this with my HBCU crew, which is that a lot of our kids are going to school, coming out, they have so much debt, they are going home. They are going to stay at home, right? Because of the debt. And so we're in a different position now in this generation. Fast forward from the 1800s to the 1930s, when we were just trying to make a way, we were trying to gain our own human dignity and, become full producers in the economy to gain our own wealth for our families. And we're in a place now where we can make the switch. We got through civil rights. We 50 plus years out. And now it's like, okay, what are we going to do for the next, how are we planning for the next 100 years? One of the things I know, I can't remember which one of you ladies I talked to about it but we talked about when our young people come out of high school or college, maybe not buy them a car. Maybe we're putting a down payment on a condo for them that they can rent a room out and generate some income and then get the car. Thinking a little bit differently about our money and creating a mindset where they know to do things a little bit differently. Mm-hmm. So some of the ways that we've seen, I mean, just off the top of your head, rapid fire, if you will, responses, some of the ways that we've seen where people are creating generational wealth right now. What are some of the things that you've seen or that are viable ways to do things that you feel really are things that our ladies should be looking at and considering? And you can go in any order you like.
Well, one of the things you just said, except for the fact that Atlanta has just become unaffordable to buy a place. But imagine if not only when our children were going into college, a lot of colleges typically tell kids do not even come to school with a car, right?
Right. Right.
So how about that condo or two-place townhome or something like that, and rent one of them that
Right.
pays the rent for both of the both
Right.
places for the child. How about that? That's one thing I would say.
One thing I'm thinking about, it was so cute. I think my granddaughter had a really good report card. And so I gave her some money. She was 5 at the time. My son said, okay, what are we going to do with this money? And invest it. So in her mind, she is thinking about investing her money instead of going and buying something. That's what grandma's for. I go buy the stuff. But I also make sure, as a grandparent, I'm making sure that my grandkids will have the funds when they're ready. And we all do this. And Carmen and Saran and Shalonda, Carmen was instrumental in helping me to figure out how to do that. And
Right.
so investments, that's key too for children.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
That's my favorite thing, Leah. I know y'all hear me talk about all the time the $1 Million Baby Fund. And I tell people all the time, hey, it's not just for babies. It's just a catchy phrase. But that $1 Million Baby Fund is about changing mindset because, and I tell my clients this, when you start a $1 Million Baby Fund when a child is a baby, they don't know any different. They automatically tackle all of those problems that we've uncovered. Like Carmen was talking about, they get to a certain age and they think that they're invincible and they don't need insurance. Well, you've already had insurance, so they know that it's a need
All your life.
Right.
Right. So it's building that normalcy. They that's all they know. If a dad opens the car door and opens the door to the home for his little girls, that's all that little girl is gonna know. Why this man ain't opening the car door? Why this man ain't opening the door to the home? The finances are the same way. Build that normalcy. And that's why I tell people all the time, hey, you have $1 Million Baby Fund? Or people think I'm crazy because I'll see a cute little baby in Walmart and I'll say, that looks like $1 Million baby. Sparks up a lot of different conversations, because one thing that I hear often from people when we're in Walmart, and I say that, is, if I had $1 million, I wouldn't be here in Walmart. And I say, really? If you had $1 million, you wouldn't be in Walmart? I would. Because it's a discount store, right? It's not about making the million. It's about keeping the million.
Yes.
And that sparks a whole conversation, right? So I love the $1 Million Baby Fund because it changes mindset. And it builds normalcy.
And go ahead, Carmen.
I wanted to say what both of you just said, right, is exactly the way to buy that apartment, that townhome, that's how you do it. So when I say that, don't sit back if you're listening and say, but who has the money to do it? No, while these babies are just born, they're just popped out, they're 2, we're going to show you how to do that in 20 years when that kid, in 18, 19, 20 years when that kid is getting ready to go off to college. We're going to actually show you how to do that. We're going to actually show you how that baby that you're thinking, I wish I did, can be that $1 million baby. And we are talking practical stuff. We are talking $1 to $5 a day that you put up for that child. That same money that you give to that child to spend on whatever. And again, I am not knocking spending, because we only have one life to live. If we are always doing everything for some arbitrary time in the future, you'll never enjoy life. So I am not saying that. And that's the other thing that's good about what we do. Guys, please share this, because other people need to know. Listen, we help you to do these things and still be able to live the life that you want to live or that you should be living or whatever. You're not going to be reduced to, you can't take your baby to $200 Elmo thing. You can, but we want to make sure that there's also a place that $200 is going to and working for that child. We're not going to tell you have to eat soup and beans and or ramen noodles or whatever we had to do to get through college or whatever.
Well, Carmen, if the strategy is established correctly, they could have Elmo come personally to their home, huh?
There you go. Exactly.
And you know what? You said a couple of things that really hit home, and something I really want us to think about is and I'm gonna tap right into our little melanated community here, us African American women. We were not taught these things. We may not have been shown these things. We may not have experienced these things. And what we're here to do is give you a new mindset and a new way to look at it, right? And I'll be 100% upfront. I wasn't taught nothing that we talking about today. I wasn't shown. I didn't experience it. I am creating the future for those coming forward. So what the thing is that we have to think about is those financial things that we learn in our home. When you ask mom or dad something, when you ask mom or dad for something, they say, we don't have any money. We don't have it. And you start to teach the child lack. And they start to understand that, there's not enough money, and they get the mentality that there's never going to be enough money. And we have to start learning to overcome some of those financial traumas that maybe we experienced growing up. And I'll get really extreme here. Maybe the lights got cut off. Maybe you lost an apartment or a house, or maybe there was not enough money for groceries, or whatever. Or maybe not even that extreme. There was just enough money to meet the needs of that month, right? Which meant no extra stuff. That meant no Elmo. That may have meant no soccer. Well, and then there's other extremes where there was no lack. You got whatever you wanted whenever you wanted, right? But maybe there was no education around and accountability around money. And those are the things that we want to talk about. Because when I read books from other communities and when I talk to people who are not African American, they have a full plan laid out for their families. Even if it's just for grandma, mom and dad, and the kids, they have a plan that they teach one another. So these kids know when they get a certain age what their responsibility is to the family financially and what they're supposed to do with that money when it's time for things to move forward, right? And that's the type of mentality and that's the type of education that we want to share. And so when we are building these awesome ways to tap into finance, we're doing our real estate, we may be doing rental properties, maybe doing stocks, we may be doing different things on the S&P 500. We may be doing Bitcoins, maybe doing cryptocurrency. I mean, you could be out here doing commercial real estate. You could be a real estate broker or owner, and you're not only selling to your clients, but you're buying and flipping. You could be the person that just does the construction and does the flipping. You could be a YouTuber who has a monetized channel and making $5,000 or $10,000 a month, right?
Airbnb.
Smart. You could be doing the Airbnb. Let's get smart about taking that money and flipping it. And I read this in this book. It's called The Millionaire Mindset. And when let's think about our money. So let's say we have $100, right? That's a small amount because I can do math with $100 really fast on the internet. Say you have $100. The average person is spending 80 of those $100, or 80% of what they bring in on living expenses, bills, etc., right? They might have 20% left over. And that 20% will go towards things like the future, savings, things like that. But I want to flip your mindset just a little bit. And let's think about it this way, right? Let's take that $100 and let's start with, I want to figure out a way to get to 40% of this money that I'm bringing in, I'm putting into future assets or future activities or things that are going another way. And I'm not saying this is going to be easy, right? Because if you're already living somewhere, which most of us are, it really is going to take some time to kind of adjust, and or you're going to need to create some additional income, which we help people do too. But you're going to try to get that 40%. Why 40%? Because in that 40%, you're going to have 10% you're going to be able to give, right? Many people have philanthropic things they like to do. You can give, right? And the other 10% is your fund money for whatever future fund you want to have doing whatever. And you have to use it for fun. It's nothing else. Then your other 20% is more like that strategic investment where you can kind of play around with it, where you're not worried about, the gains and losses of the market, but you're really getting into doing those things. But then your other 60% is your housing, your living, your clothing, the basic stuff, commuting to work, things like that. But you're not worried because you got a fund bucket where right. when it's time for you to go on that girls trip, right? To wherever you want to go to Essence Festival, fine. You want to just go down to Key West for the week with your girls and hang out, fine. You want to go out of the country, but you have a fund that's set aside for you just having fun. And that's not just for like long-term fun. That's for short-term fun. That's going to the massage therapist once a month or once a week if that's what you desire and you need in your life. Because self-care is just not once every now and then. Self-care is a daily habit, right? And so I'm going to ask Carmen, talk to me a little bit more about setting up and getting to the point where we are, because you're the cash value queen, right? So you know how to move that cash. So talk to me about so if they do that budget where they're doing 40%, they have that 20% that they can do in different ways strategically for leveraging cash. Talk to me about some ways to leverage that cash.
Oh, great. So one of the big things that we have to understand is that we can use $1 several different ways. We have to find a way to make that $1 work several different ways for us, right? We have to make sure that dollar is not only earning money, but that same dollar is protecting us. And that same dollar, we are using it to do investments or to eliminate debt. $1, we're going to take the same money and that's what's going to help us to create that extra 40% bites on the side that you're talking about. Because when we think of sometimes when we start to think of things that to protect us, whether it's health insurance, whether it's life insurance, whether it's whatever it is, we think of it as bills. I want us to stop thinking of it as bills and start thinking of it as build. And we start to use that to build, right? To build the same dollar. Instead of we thinking of it as a bill to pay something, we're building our retirement fund, right? We are building our future wealth. We are building our protection in the event that we get ill. We are building our emergency fund. We are building the fund that we can use to reinvest in something else, right? But we're just using that $1 several different times. And that's the meaning of really, really getting that value for your cash, right? And that's what we are able to do. We need to change that mindset of it as a bill and think of it more as build. And one other thing I wanted to touch on when you talked about, look at this, my age is showing. I'm having a senior moment. But you talked about something about that you read in a book that Mr. Eugene Mitchell is getting a lot of props and he needs to send us our check. Eugene, send us a check talking about you. Go get
Cash
that.
At me. Cash at me.
Cash at me. Oh, wait, somebody else might have that. I need to go get that Cash App real quick. Anyway, but here's the thing. we have to also value ourselves differently. Okay. And one of the things that I read in his book that was really, really eye opening.
Oh, talk that talk, Carmen. Come on through. I already know what you're gonna say.
Was eye opening is that we value ourselves a lot of times in terms of what we have: a car, a nice home. And these things may, some of them may add up to $1 million or whatever, right? We really, really need to value ourselves the way the corporations value us. And he said something in that book that was very interesting. He said, a lot of times we do not like to place value on ourselves because, that's what they did to us when they brought us here. They valued us and decided what we were worth. But no, let us take that and really and truly decide what we are worth. We are $3 and $4 million, $5 million, $6 million assets walking around, right? And we need to protect that. You protect your big fancy car. Why not protect the big fancy you?
Speak.
Right? Why not do that? And if you look at many of these corporations, they take out some insurance on you that you might not even know about. And it is valued at 30 times your salary. 30 times your salary. When we talk to you and we say, you need at least 10 times, everybody's going, what? That's way too much. I'm not leaving that kind of money for my wife to spend with some other man or something like that. But these people, when you do leave, whether you leave her any to spend with any other man, these people are valuing you at $4 and $5 million. And when you're gone, they collect it. Your wife and children have nothing. We have to value ourselves differently. And if we do that, we are going to be changing generations, because at every generation is not going to have to start over.
You know what, Carmen? Listen, let me just say this. And I love the conversation you brought up. And one of the things that comes up for me whenever I think about that term of valuing yourself, right? And you hit the nail on the head. Historically, African Americans don't want to do that valuation of themselves. But here's the deal. Guess what? Everybody you do business with does a valuation on you.
Exactly.
When you go to get a mortgage and you provide a binder, at least a binder full of paperwork on your financial history in your life, guess what that bank is doing? They're taking all that information about you to determine what your future income, how much money you're going to make over the next 30 years to determine if you're going to be able to pay that loan. When you go to buy a car and you get a car loan, the car loan people are going to do the same thing. They're going to say, Mr. and Miss Jane, you make $50,000. We're going to give you want to get a car that's $20,000. We're going to take your salary over 5 years or 6 years or whatever term you're looking at. They're going to quantify you to see if you will even have the earning capability to pay them back their money. And then they're going to justify whether or not to give you that money by checking your credit worthiness, checking all your history and all those different things. So while we may not want to sit down as a people, right, and put a valuation on ourselves, everyone, even the person you apply for a credit card with, is doing it. Anybody who asks you your income to make a determination to do something for you is using it to determine your future income. So let me give it to you real quick. If you make $50,000 a year over 10 years, that's $500,000 you will have made. I'm not saying you saw it all in your bank account, because of course you're going to pay like 22 to 26% taxes. That's another story, right? But you will have earned $500,000.
Actually, more like 40% taxes, because you got to add
I'm being generous, right? So, but if you make $100,000 a year, right? And maybe you're a couple or an individual, it doesn't matter. If you make $100,000 a year, every 10 years, you will have earned $1 million, period. Now, if you go to work And let's say you started working at 25, and we'll just say over your 30 years, 30 years of working, because you won't start at 100 or whatever. Let's say you averaged $100,000, right? Because you went up and you did businesses and did whatever. If you averaged $100,000 over a 30-year career, you will have earned $3 million.
Speak.
So who thinks that they're not worth $1 million? I want to know, because I don't care how much money you make. I can show you how you're worth $1 million really fast. And so that's the thing that we as women, and to go back to our ladies that we talked about earlier, when we talked about Maggie Lena Walker, she knew her value and she walked in it, and she went, and not only went on her own, but she took other people with her. And that's what we're here to talk to you about today. So,
and you can't be afraid of the competition. You can't be afraid. And Nike has that, just do it. Just do it. Just do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And a young lady said to me today, she said, I was thinking about starting a YouTube channel, but it's too saturated. I said, too saturated? I was like, let me explain.
What kind of channel?
She was going to start a YouTube channel about something that she does. I said, let me explain something to you. Think about it like this. When people tell me that things are too saturated or there's not enough of something, right? I look at it and I say, let's be practical. One, if you had the idea to put this information out, then the people that you individually would have been able to touch won't get that information because you didn't move forward. That's the first thing.
Amen.
And when people tell me there's not enough of something, then let's check the records. I had a neighbor stop me last year and say, there's a shortage of cars. There's no more cars. I was like, really? I just drove by the dealership. The lot was full. What do you mean there's a shortage of cars? He said, well, on the news, they said there's a shortage. I said, yeah, on the news, they said there was a shortage, but can you use your logical brain and tell me that when you drive by a place that sells cars, if there's no cars there, then there's a shortage of cars. But as long as there are cars on that lot, then there's technically no shortage of cars. They may not be the exact one you want. It may not be the exact color. It may not have the seats you want or whatever. But to say there's a shortage of cars and there's not going to be any cars is ridiculous. There's plenty of cars that are for sale, right? Maybe I'm oversimplifying, but that's the thing that we have to really get ourselves into the prosperity mindset to say there'll be enough when it's time for me to get it, whether it's the exact thing you wanted or a substitute, but whatever it is that you wanted or needed will be there some way, shape, or fashion, because we're not going to run out of whatever it is that we need. So I see you put walk your value.
Oh, I meant walk in your value.
Walk in your value in there. And that's the thing. Walk with your head up, And Shalonda, you talked about last week a lot about the families and stuff that you work with and helping them to really see and understand the budgeting process. And I think it's important to bring that conversation back in again today, because we don't know what we spend. We know what we bring in. And, talk to us a little bit about knowing, the example you gave last week was with the groceries and the couponing and things like that. But to really just bring us back into the value of knowing how much you're spending on what.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. I think that when you were speaking earlier about knowing how much money you bring in is really important. So like you said, if you had $100,000 that you made over a year in 10 years, you'd be a millionaire every 10 years. I tell clients that, and sometimes it's hard for them to believe, so I show them, because I also have a statement that says, yeah, you could have been a millionaire, but you didn't put it towards anything. So are you wasting your millions, or are you living in your millions? What are you doing with your money? Because everybody, I'm sure, we are a working economy. When we turned 15 years old, we could not wait to get that work permit. Well, I come from a military family, so they put you to work right as soon as you could start working, right? So I was, hot and ready with that work permit. So, as long as I've been working, I know how much I've made over the years, just because, I don't have a life and that's what I do is calculate numbers all day. But other than that, for clients, I've shown them how many times they have been a millionaire. And it's sad because it's a portion of counseling that I do, because I want you to understand what you're worth. So, and I do that a lot when I'm doing a business coaching development, because I want that entrepreneur to understand that you will go out here and you will make $1 million for your W-2 job, but you won't set anything aside for yourself.
Wow, that's heavy.
It is, but isn't it true? Think about it.
It is so true. It's
embarrassing to admit how many times, just on this line alone, on this call with us four, because I know we've been millionaires several times. I've had a lot of jobs, right? Right. We've made some good income over the years. So think about that. Yeah, everybody's trying to make six figures. Honey, you've made six figures.
Wow.
But what did you
absolutely
do?
Have. Yeah. And you know what? I'm going to pop this question in here because you talked about the groceries last week. And this is something that I challenge my friends and family to, is stop eating out for a couple of weeks. And I don't mean going out and enjoying fun with friends and a nice social gathering, because guess what? We all need it after the last 2 years we had, right? Definitely. But what I mean is, do you need to go to Chick-fil-A every day?
But you know what? Let me jump in real quick there, Saran, because I changed the way I counsel my clients. When I first became a financial counselor, it was cut and dry. It was way before the pandemic. And I used to tell people, they would come to me and they'd say, Miss Shay, I can't find any money. I don't have any money to pay my bills. Well, first step is that's because we've forgotten what priorities were. Priorities are roof over your head, right? Which means you have to get back and forth to work because you have to have an income to keep that roof over that head. And then you have to have some sort of transportation. So I don't care if that means saving money for public transportation card, car note, whatever, right? Those are the three things that are important.
Right.
Along with, if you want to be sitting in the cold or if you want to be sitting, comfortable in the heat, utilities. Now, if you come to me and tell me you can't pay those things, we have a problem and we need to dig in. But when you come to me and you tell me, Miss Shay, I have no money, I can't pay my credit card, I can't pay my line of credit, I can't pay my furniture bill, those are not the things we need to be bothered with. Then we can say, well, maybe we should cut out some of your dining out so that you can afford what's important to you. If you want to be able to still have those luxury items, because that's what those are, because they're not necessities, they're wants, needs and wants. If you want the wants, we need to move around some of your wants so that we can make the wants that are most important, prioritizing again. So like the groceries, like you were talking about from last week, it's a matter of prioritizing if you want to be honest with yourself. And I think that's the first step of counseling. That's why I changed, because I used to tell people, don't eat out as much. You have Chick-fil-A on here 15 times. I love Chick-fil-A. I tip them well because you get good service. The food's good. Everybody's smiling. But at the end of the day, you can make that chicken sandwich at home.
You can.
So I used to tell people, don't do that. But I stopped doing that. Here's why. We have become an economy where we are socially driven, emotional, right? And it may be less costly for someone who, let's say a husband and wife at home, all the kids are out of the house. The wife has a hard time cooking dinners now. You know why? She misses her kids. She's used to cooking dinner for a big family. And it makes her sad now when she's just cooking dinner for her and her husband because she wants the kids back home. So for them, mentally, it's better for them to go out and eat, to have that social engagement.
Mm-hmm.
So I've taken a behavioral approach in my counseling now, and a couple things it's done. It's really increased my client base.
Mm-hmm.
It's allowed my clients to be more open and free with me. And it makes them a more honest person about their finances, because when I tell them, I understand you have a habit with your Reese's Pieces cups, then they don't have a problem telling me that, because they know that they can be open about it.
Yeah.
So I don't tell people to cut back on their eating out, but I will tell them to cut back on those groceries, because you don't need 3 bags of Doritos if you haven't finished the 1 bag.
Yeah. You see, you know what, and Shalonda, I think it's important, the behavioral, right? And so
Absolutely.
for me, when I look at it, one of the things that, I caught this early on in my 20s was like, you know what? I decided then I didn't want to spend all my money on fast food. I prefer to spend it on fine dining. I prefer to spend it on nicer eating out versus the convenience eating, right? And so that takes the level of commitment to food prep and doing different things. Now, do I eat out at fast food restaurants? I absolutely do. But the thing is that it's not my primary way to eat. And also for health reasons, it's not a good idea for me to eat out.
Well, and sometimes it could be seasonal though. That's why we change our spending plan, because, for the soccer mom or the softball mom, honey, for your sanity, drive through.
Yes, absolutely. But the thing, I think the biggest thing though, is not doing it or not doing it. The big thing is awareness that are spending the money there, and that if you want it to change, you know that it's happening. So we actually got about 4 minutes left, so we're gonna start wrapping up. That was a good, it didn't feel like a whole hour, right?
It didn't.
But I think that's a good conversation to continue with, Shalonda, because the behavioral based financial discussions, that's the big thing. If someone were to come to me and say, Saran, we looked at your finances and, we think it's a bad idea for you to buy really fancy gadgets. Well, that's not going to work for me, because I like to buy really fancy gadgets. But you're not going to find a bill on my checking account or on my credit cards or anything for high-end purses or shoes or things like that. Nothing wrong with them. They're not my thing, right?
There you go. They're not
my thing. But for somebody that is their thing, then it's perfectly fine, as long as, like you said, those necessities are taken care of and you're not depending on someone else to pay for those necessities. Now, talk to me about a really fancy walk-in closet and I'm down. I'll spend the money on it, right? I may not fill it up with a whole bunch of stuff.
That's why your goal's set, so we can set up a plan so you can get those fancy closets.
Exactly. And I think for all of us, we could probably talk. We know that there's things that, there was a time you couldn't keep me out of Michael's and Hobby Lobby and AC Moore and all the other places when they were open, because I like pretty paper. It didn't matter how much it cost. It was pretty. But the thing is to know that that's where you are. I think for me, with the budget and what you're spending, the biggest thing is, do you know where the money is going? And is that where you want it to go? Right. And
absolutely,
to bring us back, we're going to close. I want everybody to say your information again and hashtag Millionaire Ladies Mob. Don't forget to hashtag us. If you're watching the replay, go ahead and comment. We'll respond to the comments later, but we're really excited to be here, and we're going to be here every Thursday at 8:30, no matter where we are, to really just continue the discussion. So if there's things you feel like you want us to discuss, drop it in the comments, put it in our DM. Let us know, because we're here to support the greater good and make sure that this information doesn't stay locked up in our heads and only get to our clients. This is our community service, if you will, every Thursday from 8:30 to 9:30. But we're really trying to drop these gems on you so you have support. And I think the biggest thing we always want you to walk away with is you are not alone, and you do not have to go it alone, because you can contact Shalonda Kaiser Mitchell at, where can we contact you at, Shalonda?
I have to wait for my
Okay.
mic to unmute.
Okay. You
But
can
you can
contact you
contact
where,
Shalonda
Shalonda?
Kaiser Mitchell on Facebook at Shalonda Kaiser Mitchell. I have the several pages and the groups under Shalonda Kaiser Mitchell.
All
You can
right.
also
Carmen,
contact me at ShalondaKaiserMitchell.com, www.ShalondaKaiserMitchell.com.
and Carmen, where can we reach you?
The easiest way, it's Carmen10k.com. Also on Facebook and Instagram. On Facebook, Carmen Boss Lady Bernard is my personal page, but you can find me, Carmen, with the big facts, because that's all I bring, big facts. And if there's anything that you have heard tonight that you want to get a little bit more information on, be sure to contact us. You want to know, you have a baby, you want to know what are they talking about? I want to know about that. You want to know more about planning for retirement. You want to know how to use that dollars more than one time. You want to know any of these things, how to eliminate debt. We have the debt elimination queen on here. You want to know about healthcare, which, by the way, you will learn everything you wanted to know about healthcare next week when Aaliyah Sherrod leads the discussion on healthcare. We will be here with her as well to throw in our 2 cents. And but you can reach me at Carmen10k.com.
All right, Aaliyah, where can we reach you? Shorter
Oh,
than your
great.
call, where you can reach Carmen.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. You can reach me on Facebook, Aaliyah Phillips Sherrod, and you can reach me on Instagram at Cover Your Family, because that is what I do. I make sure that I cover your family. It's important. So we thank you for joining us this week. And again, next week, I'm going to talk about healthcare, but I'm also going to talk about something that we don't think about in our retirement, which is if something happens to us at an older age, who's going to take care of you?
Oh,
Do you think your kids are going to take care of you? Think about it again. Okay. So we'll see you next week.
All right. And I am Saran Baker, the debt elimination queen. And you can reach me at saran10k.com. You can also find me on Instagram at Covered by Saran, Facebook Covered by Saran, and website Covered by Saran, because we've got you covered. So it was a pleasure being with all of you tonight, and we are out. Millionaire Ladies Mob are out.